Mhm. Mm. Mhm. I stopped moving, so now you need attention. Silly boy. Silly boy. And 9 gets ready for launch. If I recall correctly, they scrubbed the launch because of bad weather. An asteroid will go around the Earth a couple of times. Mini moon is overstating it. It's very small and very temporary compared to the actual moon. Magma and extinct volcanoes may have rare elements. I mean, it makes sense to me that there might be interesting metals in the cooled remains of volcanoes, right? Because metals tend to sink when things are molten, right? So they tend to drop down into, the mantle and the core. And volcanoes could bring that to the surface. And in fact, that's how lots of mineral deposits are formed, is uh, usually water instead of magma. Gets down deep, dissolves something, and then comes back up and precipitates it out when it cools. It's not interesting because it looks like a zebra. It's interesting because rocks like that are metamorphic, right? Which means that they were subjected to high temperatures and pressures and then raised up to the surface, because high temperatures and pressures tend to only occur pretty deep underground. Right? You get metamorphic rocks when you start with a sedimentary rock, and then you squish it. And you heat it up, but not quite enough to melt it all the way. Your emission. Comet. If it doesn't break up, it'll probably be easiest to see in late October. You might be able to see it in early October, but you're probably going to need at least binoculars, if not a telescope. You also need to get somewhere fairly dark, which is kind of a pain if you live in or around a big city. Big geomagnetic storm. Shark. Lives for hundreds of years. They have interesting DNA. Check back in 10 years to see if this proved useful. These articles seem contradictory. I'm guessing these are misinterpreting this picture as the size of the hole. Instead, this is the polar vortex. This is the wind pattern. Probably also depends on what you consider a hole, right? How depleted does the ozone have to get before you consider it part of the hole? Right? Because for the past couple of decades, the ozone hole has been shrinking because we stopped dumping the problematic chemicals into the atmosphere. Interesting. My guess is that it has to do with stuff always tends to fall into the lowest energy state that it can. So slime molds take the easiest path they can find to food. Intergalactic threads form the way they do, probably because that's the lowest energy state. Now, I don't know enough cosmology to understand why that's the lowest energy state. So I'm guessing this is one of those papers that somebody publishes once in a while to show that not all the journals are carefully vetting the articles by sending them an article that's made up, about made up, about made up. It's very meta. It's like when you occasionally include a random word in your homework to see if your teacher's actually reading them or not. I used to do that occasionally. Write a perfectly correct answer except with like pineapple or rocket chip or bubblegum. Just randomly in the middle of a sentence. Yeah, microgravity is not good for us. This we know. It's a real problem. What we don't know as well is whether partial gravity, like what you would find on the moon or Mars, is bad for us. My guess is yes. Maybe not as bad, but probably bad. Probably bad for bone density, at the very least. Nicely lined up gravitational lens. This is the recurring nova. We saw it the other day. Earth had a ring, and now it doesn't. Because we have a giant moon. And there are not a lot of stable places for stuff to hang out. So, yeah, any dust or asteroids near the Earth and the moon either fall onto the Earth, fall onto the moon, or get chucked out into the solar system. Unless they happen to be landing in one of the what do they call it? Lorentz points? I think that's good. This is Lorentz transformation. That's speed of light stuff. It's Lagrange. That's it. Lagrange points. And each two-body system has two stable ones where things will tend to fall into them, two unstable but large ones where things kind of drift along. It's kind of like a hill with a big, flat, broad top, right? It's a little bit, can be a little bit of effort to get up the hill, but once you're on top, right, you don't just roll right back off. Go for a while. And then one small, unstable one where if you move to either side, you start to fall out of it. So if I recall correctly, L2 and 3 are stable ones. 4 and 5 are the large, flat, but ultimately unstable ones. L1 is the small, unstable one. Right, because if you're at L1, if you start to get closer to the Earth, all of a sudden you get pulled into the Earth. If you start to get towards the sun, you get pulled towards the sun. Three are unstable, two are unstable. 1, 2, and 3. Oh, excellent. 2 and 3 are the unstable ones. 4 and 5 are the stable ones. Do I just remember that wrongly? Maybe I do. It's been a while since I've done any astrophysics. I remembered it half correct. They're calling L4 and L5 stable, but this is not a stable equilibrium point. Right. They're big and they're flat, but they are sloped outwards. Whereas the other three are like saddle points. They're stable in the rotational direction. They're unstable going in and out. So they're saying the reason that they stay stable is the Coriolis force. Is if the object tries to drift out of L4 and L5, it starts to spin. I wonder if that's like
This year, there are 4 incredible... What happens when you put a ball on a turntable and then start spinning the turntable? Intuitively, you might expect the ball to be flung from the turntable. That's certainly what I thought would happen. But look, instead, the ball goes into a kind of circular motion on the plate. The ball does eventually slide off the turntable, but it takes ages.
So I wonder if the stuff in the Lagrange points is doing that. Evidence of a kaon decay. It's blobs. Giant panda skin cells transformed into stem cells. But why? Do they want to use it for cloning? opening the door to creating primordial germ cells that serve as precursors to sperm and egg cells. We've introduced a specific microRNA cluster to fibroblasts. Now, this is relevant to humans because we would really like to be able to grow new organs from scratch for organ transplants. Right, one of the biggest problems with organ transplants is rejection, right? When the immune systems of the donor and the receiver don't get along. Thermal outflows of the Milky Way traced by radio polarization gamma rays. Also, this is not necessarily true. If you're willing to go crazy pants on it, there are definitely ways to cool down the planet. We're just not trying them right now because they all seem dangerous. And we're still kind of right on the edge where we could fix the climate change thing without doing crazy stuff. So we're still trying to convince people to fix it without doing crazy stuff. Note that somebody coming up with a set of equations and even a simulation that kind of works does not mean that it's true. right? And our current understanding of relativity, based on like Einstein and the people who built on his work, and also Hawking did a lot of work on trying to reconcile quantum mechanics and relativity, right? These are some of the best tested and most accurate sets of equations and theories that have ever been made. So, right, anything suggesting something completely new and different should be taken with a grain of salt and followed up with actual experimental research, checking to see if you got to find something that the new theory predicts that the old theory doesn't, and then find a way to check those predictions. That's how you figure out which theories are correct, right? You have two theories, you find a prediction where they disagree, and then you test it. And the one that wins is not necessarily right, but the one that lost is definitely wrong. Regular obesity has flattened out, but severe obesity is still getting worse. Interesting. I've been dieting and exercising, so my weight is back in the healthy range post COVID lockdown gains. But I'm still on the high end of the healthy range, so I'm gonna stick with my diet. I'm gonna try and get to the low end of the healthy range. Eastern equine encephalitis. One more argument for extincting human-biting mosquitoes. First at-home flu shot. It's not a shot, it's nasal spray. It's a vaccine. Both the nasal spray and the shots are vaccines. Generally, we use shot to mean injection. Or small cup filled with a liquid. Bird flu is showing up in cows now. Well, that's not great. I wonder if the cows can be sufficiently quarantined so as to let them recover. Generally speaking, when turkeys or chickens catch the flu, we just incinerate them, because a modern factory farm, right, they're too densely packed to let them recover. right? They'll just keep going round and round and it'll spread to the whole facility, and it's just no good. The best way to contain it is incineration of the entire affected facility. Well, all of the animals at the facility, and then the facility itself gets scrubbed and usually chlorinated, and then possibly subjected to ultraviolet sterilization as well. Flu shot schedule. When should you get it? Get it right now. And if you're worried, you can get another one in a couple of months. There's no known harm to getting more than one. CTE is what? Some sort of cerebral something, cerebral trauma, encephalitis maybe? Chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Mm. So, lots of unknowns still. It is not good to take repeated traumatic head injuries the way like American football players and boxers. Who else? There have been suggestions that European style football, aka soccer players, sometimes come down due to that. I would have to think it's less likely. Right. You can get concussed, right? You can take some damage from getting hit in the head with the ball or hitting a ball with your head intentionally. There's no like person to person contact, so the energy is significantly lower. So I am curious is, does the coronavirus itself cause this, or does being locked in your house for like 4 years cause this? I suspect they don't know the answer to that. Anti-aging enthusiasts are taking a pill to extend their lives. Will it work? Depends on the pill. Also, probably not. Because if we had something that we were sure was safe and effective, it would already be approved by the FDA and on sale. And also probably almost everybody who could afford it would take it. I mean, there are definitely pills that will help you avoid particular causes of death. There are pills that help you control your glucose metabolism. There are pills that help you control your cholesterol. There are pills that help you control your blood pressure. There are pills that reduce various kinds of inflammation. And all of those are quite useful when used carefully and correctly. Talk to your doctor. I'm not a doctor, and I'm definitely not your doctor. Mm-hmm. Yeah, antimicrobial resistance is gonna be a big problem in the not too distant future. Uber to say healthy snack made more nutritious with these tips from dietitians. Mm, get the kind with no sweetening. Add something with lots of fiber to it. Don't add sugar to it. You notice I said no sweetening twice. Yeah, see, this is important. These countries that have free money and lots of health research need to help knock down diseases in countries that are struggling. Even if the struggling country in question is doing their best and, doing an okay job, it's important to knock down disease everywhere in the world as best we can. I don't know why I keep getting these clickbait Slate articles in here. Yeah, feel free to give me less of those. Mpox prevention. Yeah. Try and get a vaccine is the best option. The problem is that there are not enough vaccines to go around right now. I have sleep apnea, so this is relevant to me, maybe. anecdotally. And also from some of my doctors, but not others, the mandibular devices are extremely expensive and not that effective. So if your doctor suggests one of those to you, ask how much it's going to cost first. Because there's some places out there that'll charge you like $10,000 for it. It's basically just a retainer with a little plastic band that pulls your lower jaw. Pulls your lower jaw forwards a little bit. Yeah, so it costs like maybe $100 to make and another $100 or so to get the molds making. And they claimed, well, we're going to charge you that much because we'll include all of all the replacement parts and things for free forever. Except it's not forever, it's just until they change their company name and pretend that they're a new company so that they don't have to honor their old agreements. Also, you would need to get like 100 of these things to pay for itself. Even if it's 50, right? There's no way a typical person is going to make that $10,000 pay off. Especially since they're not that effective, so like a lot of people stop using them because they don't work that well. CPAP, on the other hand, currently costs about $800 and is effective for just about everybody who can stand to have a air mask on their face. And even if you're one of those people that hates like regular like N95 type masks, these are not as bad because they're constantly blowing air in. Right? So because they're pressurized, they don't have that same feeling of like some people feel like they're not getting enough air. Right? But that doesn't happen as much because these are pressurized. Also, that feeling of not getting enough air from wearing a particulate mask is not correct. Right? That's nocebo effect in your mind. Right? And if you don't believe me, you can go get yourself a pulse oximeter. It's $20 or so at just about any pharmacy. And you can try it. You clamp it on your finger, see your pulse oxygenation. When you're awake and breathing, it should be 99 to 100%. Your blood should be pretty much completely oxygenated. And then put a mask on. And tell me how long it takes before your blood oxygenation drops below, 96%. It's a trick question because it won't happen. Right. I just want you to sit there for an hour or so and prove to yourself that you're breathing just fine with the mask on. Yeah, these don't appear to be any particular kind of exercise, just right, just for a regular person, high intensity interval training or for somebody in rehab resistance training. So it's basically anything that improves your general cardiac health. So if your body uses oxygen more efficiently, then when you stop breathing in the middle of the night, your oxygen won't drop as fast. I mean, that checks out, so I guess it's fine. You should get general cardio exercise. Everybody, at least 15 minutes a day, I think is the recommendation. Come on, people. Pertussis is preventable. We need everybody to get vaccinated because we don't want this in the general population long enough to mutate. Because if you let it mutate, then everybody has to go get vaccinated again. West Nile virus. Let's just kill the mosquitoes. I'm just gonna keep promoting that course of action. Generally speaking, just don't drink alcohol. And if you're gonna, keep it to like 1. Right. Honestly, probably 1 a day is too many. Maybe once per day for a maximum of maybe 3 or 4 days a week. Right. 1 every other day. Probably not 3 in 1 day. And if you said to me, but I can't get drunk off of a single glass of alcohol, you should not be getting drunk. It's not good for you. This is not actually a poliovirus, this is an enterovirus. Yeah, we've learned a lot about enteroviruses recently and why they're really bad for you. Turns out, you remember how some people had some weird, like paralysis style side effects from the first set of COVID vaccines? Turns out that was not from the COVID part of the vaccine. It was from the delivery part of the vaccine, which is based on enterovirus. And as much as it sucks for the people who had those symptoms, that was how we figured out that enteroviruses were causing paralysis style symptoms in the first place. So the fact that this research is even showing, hey, we're seeing enterovirus paralyzation spiking, right? Part of that was due to the people who had paralysis effects from the first set of COVID vaccines. That led us to the enteroviruses in the first place. Now we just need a vaccine for enteroviruses. Enteroviruses are one of the viruses that would typically get classified as, quote unquote, the cold. Right. Having a cold, you probably have an enterovirus or a rhinovirus. If you have a cough, right, it's a coronavirus maybe. There are lots of different kinds of coronaviruses. The one from 2019 was just particularly bad. Right. And the flu is usually influenza. Right. Unfortunately, influenza is kind of a broad range of viruses. Right. When we say this or that or the other thing flu, those are all different kinds of influenza. The biggest problem is that all of these viruses mutate really quickly. That's why that's why we have to have new vaccines every year for them. Really, twice a year. Generally speaking, we alternate every 6 months. We have a northern hemisphere vaccine and then we have a southern hemisphere vaccine because the season where the most people catch the flu is opposite. Right, so everybody gets it in their season of fall. So the northern hemisphere gets it around September time, and then the southern hemisphere gets it around March. And we use the data from each one to try and predict what the next one is going to need. Measles is preventable, and also extremely contagious. So, isolation and quarantine don't work super well for measles. It spreads through the air, it's super contagious. Vaccines are the best way to go for measles by far. Peanut butter versus almond butter, which is healthier? Eh. They both have relatively a lot of calories because they contain saturated fat. As saturated fats go, these are not too bad. Right, fats from seeds and nuts are better than those from red meat, for instance. But they do have relatively a lot of calories. Also, they're not really even the same kind of plant. Peanuts are beans. I think almonds are actual nuts, but I'm not sure. Is coffee the new superfood? Drinking 3 cups of coffee. I don't drink coffee. I drink tea. And you're probably going to want, decaf or some of them. Longevity experts say this healthy habit can take years off your life. Oh, really? High protein diet. Yep, that checks out. Right. People trying to get into ketosis as a way to lose weight. It's not good for you. Right? Your body's not meant to bring ketosis. And definitely, super definitely not for a long period of time. So there are 2 causes for racial disparities here. One is availability. Depending on where you're running your study, race correlates strongly with affluence right? Income. And people in lower income areas generally have less healthcare availability. Even in places where healthcare is paid for, right? There tend to be less doctors. The other one is a lot of the research on things like cancer have been done on white people for the most part in the United States and Europe. And uh, I mean, predictably Asians in Asia. The catch is that African genotypes are much more diverse than Eurasian genotypes, right? By like a 5 or a 6 factor. Right. So you may have heard that not all medicines work equally well for all people, right? And a lot of that comes down to your genetics. So not accounting for the genetic diversity of people with near African ancestors means that medicines are not going to work as well for them. And really the only way to fix that is to spend money researching how the genotypes differ. We have the same problem with biases in artificial intelligence, right? If you train them on training data about white people, then it will not work as well for people of other races. And vice versa, but it's almost always white people that get included, right? Because the places that spend the most money are the places that have the most money. And historically, those places tend to mostly be populated by white people. I blame colonialism. Yeah, fundamentally, colonialism is a big part of the problem, right? Because white people went around the world and took advantage of everybody else for several hundred years. So they concentrated a lot of the global wealth, and not in a friendly way either. Not that wealth concentration tends to ever be friendly, but colonialism is one of the less friendly ways. It's not right. That's not good. Dengue cluster in California. Yep, time for Los Angeles County to kill all of the mosquitoes. All of them, all of them. And personally, I think we should do that worldwide. How healthy are apples? Yeah, they're fine. They have a little bit more sugar than you'd really like in a food. They have a decent amount of fiber and other nutrients. They do contain I don't know. Maybe it's the fructose. Maybe it's this profilin stuff. Never heard of it. Actin binding protein. So I'm no good with ragweed. Apples hurt my stomach a little bit. Tomatoes also. But many of the things on this list do not. I've never been bothered by kiwi or pineapple. I mean, pineapple. Celery. Peanuts only if I eat a lot of them. I don't eat mugwort. I'm guessing that my birch beer, which I don't drink anymore because I'm on a diet, does not contain any actual birch anymore. But I've never had a reaction to a birch tree. Bell peppers, no. Pigweed. I don't know. I feel like maybe I've had some in my yard once or twice, but normally get rid of it because it's not something I want in my yard. Oranges I'm fine with. Basil. I can eat hazelnuts with no trouble. Muskmelons, frequently called a cantaloupe in the US, but cantaloupe is actually a different melon. Carrots, soybeans, sunflowers. I think I'm okay with latex. I've definitely worn latex gloves with no problem. Olives, Timothy grass, date palms, peaches, pears, yellow mustard. I don't have any trouble with any of those. So it's probably not this. It's causing my upset stomach if I consume a lot of apple. I would guess it's the fructose. I have the same trouble if I cook them first. Don't think so. Well, none of those were very information. Sure, BuzzFeed. Tell us what dangerous things we're doing today. I'm gonna say, unfortunately, that's not even the worst ladder picture I've ever seen. Yeah, don't set your ladders on top of other things. They're not good for that. Yeah, this is definitely something I've seen before. Right? Whenever I use a metal brush to scrub a food surface, I always scrub it with something else afterwards. What's it right here? It's definitely bad for you. Yeah, I think CPR should be taught in high school. Actually, my high school did have that class. They had a lifeguard class. My high school had a pool, so that was nice. You could take that instead of a standard gym class. So the first half of getting your lifeguarding certification is CPR, rescue breathing, first aid, all of that. Yeah, staying hydrated, sure. Yeah, you should basically always read the material safety sheets for your cleaning products, because you really gotta know what to do and not do with them, and especially what not to mix with them. The number one do not mix is, I mean, bleach with basically anything, but especially not with ammonia, and also especially not with peroxide. And I don't know, but I suspect you should not mix peroxide and ammonia together either. I don't know what happens if you mix all three together. Nothing good, I would assume. Right, chlorine and ammonia releases chlorine gas. Chlorine and peroxide releases oxygen gas. So at the very least, the three together probably releases both chlorine and oxygen. Huh, that's not supposed to go there. The leg bone is supposed to be connected to the hip bone. Yep, careful on lawnmowers. Not only right around the lawnmower, but also by the discharge of the lawnmowers, because they can fling stuff. Yeah, definitely get insurance if you can afford it. If you're struggling, I mean, most kinds of insurance, there's a minimum amount of insurance you have to have, like for driving. But the minimum insurance, keep in mind, usually only covers people that you hurt. They don't cover you if you've been hurt. So I think the priority order is probably for most people going to be insuring other people, because most states require that. That's the minimum requirement. Insuring anybody that you hurt. Many states also require insurance for any property damage that you cause. And then after that, you're probably going to want to insure yourself and your car's passengers. And then after that, you may want to insure the car itself in case it gets damaged by something. Depends on how much a car is worth and whether you've paid it off. If you still have a loan on it, most lenders require that you insure for at least the amount of money that's left on the loan. I personally drive rarely and have a clean record, so I get good insurance rates. Right, so I have fairly complete coverage. Also, I pay it for the whole year in advance, so I get like a 10% discount for that too. So most people would pay probably 6 or 7 times what I pay to get the same coverage. Especially Tylenol. Right? Tylenol is reasonably safe in low doses, but it gets quite dangerous as you start to overdose. I don't know that I've ever heard of it causing seizures before, but it can definitely destroy your liver. Maybe your kidneys too. Yep. Picking heavy things up not carefully. Also, get some weight training in and protect yourself from some of this. Right? The stronger you are, the less likely you are to accidentally hurt yourself. Just make sure to get some guidance on how to do your weight training safely, because it defeats the purpose to hurt yourself when you're training to not hurt yourself. Well, yeah, definitely have seen semi-trailer tires explode and shoot fuses off. really, you should give these trucks plenty of room, right? Don't. Also, if you're driving right next to them, they can't see you. And then if they go to change lanes, they're going to run you off the road because you're in their blind spot. Don't tailgate them either. Also, don't get in front of them. Because if you get in front of them and then hit your brakes, they can't stop. Right? Big trucks take a long time to slow down. Like, I'm constantly astounded by the people who pass a big truck and cut over in front of it, and then realize there's some other cars up ahead and then hit their brakes. And then the truck has to like try to emergency brake to not run you over. Don't do that. Right? Same thing for tailgating right behind a truck, right? They can't see you there. Most truck drivers are very considerate drivers. They'll try and account for you if they can see you. So, yeah. The safe distance from other cars is probably twice, maybe 3 times what most of you think it is. And then the safe distance from a large tractor trailer style truck is twice that again. Yeah, especially don't leave flammable stuff on top of your stove if you have pilot lights. If you have electric starters, or even better, an induction stove, I don't know, not electric resistance coil stove, because those, once they're hot, stay hot for a long time. So setting something flammable on top of it after you've turned it off because you think it's cooled down, but it hasn't, that can also cause an issue. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, don't leave stuff on top of your stove. Electric starters are definitely safer that way, though, because they don't produce heat when you're not using them. I've definitely seen people with pilot lights set something on top of their stove and then have it spontaneously light on fire because the pilot light is actually a little flame inside the stove that the stove is using to light. And it can make parts of the top of the stove hot. This is something that I've seen before. It's people who have appendicitis not getting treatment. So, when they couldn't find this person's appendix, that should have been a warning. If you can't find it at all, something is probably wrong. Just be like, oh no, it's probably just really small. You know, why are you making a dangerous assumption like that? So I'm going to suggest that pedophiles are probably not even the primary danger here. Right? There definitely are people out there who abuse children, and you don't want to expose your kids to that. And they make the news a lot, so it seems like there's a lot of them. I suspect that identity theft is a bigger problem, or at least becoming a bigger problem. They don't spread as much, but there are definitely plenty of stories about people whose children's identities were leaked, either in an information leak or because they were, on the internet, and somebody stole their identity, and then their 7-year-old suddenly is on the hook for a mortgage or a car loan or a bunch of credit cards that somebody opened up. I mean, and the other thing to consider is that social media is not good for children, like intellectually and emotionally. Yeah, I think it's personally perfectly reasonable to keep a kid off the internet until they're a teenager. If they want to use the internet for research or watch TV or something, then you should be supervising them. I mean, really, young children should have a parent with them or some other adult with them basically all the time. I suspect that many households do not, the adults do not spend enough time with their children, just in general. Yeah, I can see that. Trampolines are fun. I've definitely bounced off a trampoline more than once. Never hurt myself badly. Bumps and bruises. So you should generally have a helmet on, even if it's not motorized, just a regular bicycle. Whether or not you need a helmet when riding a scooter depends on where you live. If it's somewhere with a lot of traffic, then yes. If it's somewhere with a lot of hills, if you're the sort of person that goes down a hill on a scooter, yes, you should definitely have a helmet on. I wiped out on a regular bicycle once on, on a flat stretch of road. I was going pretty fast. When I was a teenager, I could go pretty quickly on a bicycle. I don't even know if I still could. Um, but I wiped out really badly, took half an inch or so off the side of my helmet. If I hadn't been wearing the helmet, that would have been the side of my face instead, and I would have a horrific scar right down the side of my face. Also potentially a brain injury, right? Because the impact was pretty substantial as well. Yep, this is true. We should also learn the difference between allergies and intolerances. Like being lactose intolerant, being allergic to lactose are very different. Eating kidney beans every day has an unexpected effect on your cholesterol. Does it? I would expect it to cause your cholesterol to go down. Eating beans, surprisingly good for you. Except it's not surprising. I think we all knew that beans were relatively healthy food. Especially if you use them to replace some unhealthy food. Weight settling around the waist. Definitely have that issue. I've been losing weight. My waist size has been going down. I was on my second belt notch. And yesterday, for a little bit, I found even the fourth one was too loose, and I went to the fifth belt notch. But most days these days, I'm still on the fourth. So I've gained a solid 2 notches on my belt. The notches are, let's say, roughly an inch apart. So I've lost 2 inches, and I'm working on the third one. Now that I look at it, this belt only has 5 notches. If I manage to keep going, I may be able to pull the next size down belt out of the closet where it's been sitting for like 5 years now. That would make me pretty happy. If I could downsize back to my pre-COVID wardrobe. Yeah, I'd buy this. Good posture signals your body that things are going well. That's interesting. Presumably, the answer is because Parkinson's is caused by problems in the brain, and when you mess with the brain, you mess with all sorts of things. It's pounds. Let's see. Let's see. Much higher level of neuron activity. I wonder if, right, so for Parkinson's, they're going to want to pair it with something that inhibits this part of the brain, but for people with various psychological problems, I wonder if enhancing this part of the brain would be useful. Right, if you're the sort of person that overthinks things, right, has trouble with spontaneity to the point where it causes you trouble. I wonder, I wonder. So I would suspect that eating eggs Slows cognitive decline by providing high quality protein. That would be my guess. How many eggs should you eat? The answer is not that many. A handful a week is probably fine though. Arc analyze like or is it's not an assessment, it's an assay. That's the word. Shoot. Yip. Leave. Go on now. You said it. Yes, sirree, Bob. Bob on bracelet. Peel like a potato. Pear. Sage or smart alecky. Wise. Pandemonium. Chaos, probably? Like 1, 2, 3, 4. But not 4, 3, 2, 1. Even. Auto, the orange. Big red, etc. I don't know what those are. Alliance with Paw. Understand me. Let's try that. I said I was going to try. Skip. Am I clear? May be renewable. Resource. Prepared to prey, perhaps. Maybe melt. Many cultures probably kneeling down. Soreness after water aerobics. That's going to be. Oops. Say charm. This is probably an egg. So pandemonium is not the chaos. Pandemonium is one of those words with the double meanings. It can mean craziness, like people acting up, rioting, or it could be a part of hell, depending on which particular religion you subscribe to. Layered haircut. I feel like this is in my brain, but it's been a long time since I've cared about haircuts. I just always put my hair up in a ponytail. I basically never do anything else. Don't spend. Save. Freshly cut grass. High cooling on a windowsill, etc. Aromas. This is havoc, not chaos. Unity fitness centers, YMCA's. Is a layered hairstyle a shag? Could be, because then this becomes college mascot. I've never heard of either of those, but whatever. Champagne glass is a flute. Incense, remnants, ash. 5. Eggs in ash pile. Unknown. 3 letters, something to do with eggs. Don't know. Blueprint detail for short. Spec. Frolic. This is going to be covert. Am not. Short R2. I'm not sure that should be the double O though. Because that would read as R also. So shoe is probably scat. More stressed is tensor. Oh, the eggs are roe. So it's fish eggs. Well, this is the lay. Doesn't matter to me, gesture. For all. Or, okay, abbreviation of over. Adored figures. Idols. Helicopter part is a rotor. Iron Man and the Iditarod are races. Football cry. Olay? Oh. Maybe? I I mean, I really associate that more with bullfighting, but I feel like I've seen lots of YouTube clips of soccer stadiums going ole, ole, ole. Like that. Quarter of a quart. Half quart is a pint, half pint is a cup. Keep forgetting what you said. Not enough information. Radiate. Radiate starts with an E, huh? Emit? Probably emit. Candy cane. Mafia bosses are Dons. Same old story. Cabo. I don't know, I'm guessing it's a lemon, but I don't know what a cabo is. Is it a drink? Is it a food? I only know so many fruits that start with LE and are 5 letters long. Overgrowth stone is the opal, based on the OB. Standard of perfection. No, so this is going to be remind me again. Social security cards as an ID. Social security card is not intended as an identification. Right? The method by which the numbers are generated is not random. Okay. Lamb's mom, and it's a U, and that makes that own. Let's see, 44. Exam for a DA to B. Like an LSAT. Let up. Oh no. Curb appeal. Ladybug or a firefly. Just like insect in general. To repent is to apologize. Tone, maybe? Tones. That makes insect not seem really good. Have a taste of on a smile. Sneer. Put a lid on it. Stash. Eureka. I have found it. Shapes of avocados, Roma tomatoes. Over ovals, celebrity news publication. Yeah. Insect is not working out. Garfield is John's pet. Is People magazine fits. Okay, so it wanted beetles. So ease up is a bait. Standard of perfection is an ideal. people who live in Sulawesi, or probably didn't pronounce that right, or Newfoundland, or Islanders. Did that perfectly. Nailed it. Found a taste of sample. Piles and piles. Or aha. 6 heaps. 6. EGOT Winner Davis. I don't know what EGOT or EGO. Don't know. Bookies numbers. Old or golden beers. Yes. Kilt feature. Plaid. Not really required, but many of them are. Depends on where you are, I guess. Star Wars heroine from Honor. Not as much. Less. Mammals with flippers. Seems like a hipster painter. All through is a pass. Tri-state area, which makes that not a plaid, but a pleat. Player scored is a goal. It's okay, but there's an error. Error. Metro or Idles Rotor Race World Cup. Remind me again, at E-Zone is at a bait smear lid pet aha ovals magazine. Volcano, aka Mungibello. Mount Etna? Sounds like a real place. Apron Odds Ales Pleat. Last Seals. Art. That's where that T from earlier went was placed. Or T. Not art. What to do? What to do? Did most of the housework I was planning to do today. I did not accomplish as much at my day job as I was planning. So I'm really gonna have to put some effort in on that tomorrow. This one had to be the 5. There's another 5 right below. Yeah, I think that was a mistake. Of course, it's possible it'll still turn out to be the right answer. that I don't actually know yet, so I don't want to leave a potential mistake like that. Turned out that it was wrong, so it's good that I noticed it and went back to fix it. Feeling stripey today. I like it whenever you choose. So we can. Pushing that off the desk. Huh? I put it on the desk for a reason. It's not your job to take things that I put on the desk and push them under the desk. That's not correct. That's not correct. Oh yeah? You silly fluff. You silly fluff. Hmm. Okay, these do not contain any 5, so one of these is the 5. 5 pairs with 3. Not a 3, because then the other one would have to be a 3. Is not the correct line of reasoning. In fact, I have no idea where I came up with that. Or a difference of. Right, 1 goes to 4, 2 goes to 5, and 3 goes to 6. That 2 is used, so this 5 is good. That 2, then nothing happens because that would pair with the 4, but the 4 can also pair with the 6. Let's see. 5s, I've got 5s, and 5s there. These can go sum to 11, so this one is too small. These can sum to 11, so this one is too small. These 2 can sum to 12, so this one is okay. Oh, here we go. There's only 1 5 in that. That leaves these with 8. So this one is too small. Let's see, 2 and a 6, a 3 and a 5, 4 and a 4 doesn't. 6 and 2. And this 3 doesn't work without the 5. 6, 2, 6. 1, 2, 3, 6. 1, 2, 3, 6. 1, 2, 3, 6. 1, 2, 3, 6. So I have a set of 4 that use 4 numbers. That was it's that one. 3. And this one. So we have 3 and 5. It's 1. This 2 would need to pair with a 3, which isn't there. Okay, well. You're looking away grumpily because I'm not paying attention to you, even though you're sitting right there. Well, why are you pouting? Why are you pouting, little boy? Because that he pouts when I'm supposed to be paying attention to him, but I'm not. He gets pouty. He may also just be looking at the computer screen. I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah, he's a sweet cat. Oh yeah. Now that I'm petting you, you're gonna purr. Purr, 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 purr. Yeah. You finish this game and then I'll sign off and then I'll get you a snack. Yeah, and that'll make you happy, right? Make you happy. You like snacks? Mm. Mwah. Oh, that was the last game. Sign off. Get a white snack. White snack. And he will be happy forever and ever until he's done eating, and then it will be forever since he's had any food, and he'll be hungry. As soon as there's no food on the plate, it's automatically been forever since there was food on the plate. Yeah. Alright. Bye bye. See you around.